He thought today would finally be the day his life turned around. The day he could close the door on his past and open a new chapter. Everyone expected smiles, laughter, and celebration. But right there, standing beside him, his son's eyes told a different story. The boy wasn't excited. He wasn't smiling. He was stiff, quiet, and restless, like he could already sense something was wrong. The father bent down, fingers trembling, as he tried to straighten his son's bow tie. It should have been a simple gesture, but his hands shook so badly it looked like he was about to fall apart. The boy brushed him off with a frown. "I can do it myself," he muttered. "You should be happy for me today," the father said, forcing a smile. His voice carried a crack, the kind that gave away nerves you can't hide. The boy raised his head, his stare sharp and questioning. "Happy? You didn't even tell me where you met her until last week. How am I supposed to be happy?" The father sighed, rubbing his forehead as if trying to chase away doubt. "I met her at a charity dinner. She came into my life when I needed someone the most. That's all that matters." But the boy shook his head. His small hands balled into fists. "No, that's not enough. I've never seen her in our home. She never comes with us when we visit Mom's grave. You always send me there alone. Why, Dad? Why isn't she ever with us?" The man's jaw tightened. His eyes hardened. "Because you never gave her a chance. Every time I tried, you made it miserable. That's because she feels wrong," the boy shot back, his voice cracking with emotion. His eyes watered, but his tone was firm. "She never looks at me. She never asks about Mom. She pretends I don't even exist. And you can feel it too. She's hiding something. I know she is." The father turned his face away, unwilling to meet his son's eyes. But the words hung heavy in the air, like a warning neither of them could escape. "She feels wrong, Dad. She's hiding something." The music started, soft and sweet, echoing through the church. Everyone turned their heads as the bride stepped inside. Gasps and whispers filled the room. People couldn't stop talking about how beautiful she looked. Her gown sparkled, her veil floated behind her, and her smile seemed perfect. The father's chest swelled with pride. For a moment, all his doubts faded. This was his chance to move forward, to finally be happy again. He didn't even glance at his son, who stood stiff and restless at his side. The boy couldn't join in the admiration. His stomach twisted as he watched her walk down the aisle. Something about that smile bothered him. It was too polished, too rehearsed. It didn't feel real. To everyone else, she looked like a dream. To him, she felt like a lie. He tugged nervously at his sleeve, glancing at his father. "She doesn't look right," he whispered under his breath. But his father didn't hear. Or maybe he just didn't want to. The man leaned down and muttered, "Not now. Don't ruin this." His eyes stayed locked on the bride, forcing himself to believe this was the perfect moment. The boy clenched his fists. His heart pounded faster. Something in him screamed that he needed to pay attention. Against his father's warning, he looked back up, just as the bride lifted her head. Her veil slipped for only a second, but that 1 second was enough. There, across her neck, was a scar. The boy froze, his breath caught in his throat, and in that instant, every bone in his body told him something was terribly wrong. Scars don't lie. The moment the boy saw that faint line on her neck, his whole body went cold. His chest tightened, his breath caught, and memories came rushing back like a wave he couldn't escape. He had seen her before. Not once, not twice, many times. After school, near the gate. She wasn't dressed like a bride then. She wore jeans, simple clothes, her hair tied back. But it was her. That same scar. He remembered her holding the hand of a little boy who looked just like her, and walking right beside her was a man, laughing with her, touching her shoulder like a husband would. The boy's heart started pounding. His palms turned sweaty. This wasn't just some woman his dad had fallen in love with. She already had a life. She already had a family. He tugged at his father's sleeve, harder this time. His voice cracked as he whispered, "Dad, it's her. I know her. I saw her at my school. She was with a man. And a kid. She's not who you think she is." His father's jaw clenched. He kept his eyes locked on the bride, refusing to look down. "Not here. Not today. Stop making things up." "I'm not making it up," the boy hissed, tears stinging his eyes. "She's married. She has a husband. She has a son. I saw them myself." "Enough," the father muttered sharply, his voice almost breaking. "Don't embarrass me in front of everyone." The boy's lips trembled. His heart was beating so hard it hurt. His father wasn't listening. Nobody was listening. And then, the priest's calm voice filled the silence of the church. "If anyone here knows a reason why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now." The boy's knees felt weak. He looked at his father one last time, begging him with his eyes. But his father didn't move. He didn't even look at him. Tears spilled over. The boy swallowed hard, stepped forward, and pointed a trembling hand toward the bride. His voice cracked, but it rang through the church like thunder. "Stop!" The boy's voice cut through the silence like a knife. "She already has a husband and a kid." The whole church froze. Gasps filled the air. People leaned forward in their seats, whispering to each other in shock. The music stopped. The smiles faded, and all eyes turned to the little boy standing at the altar. The bride's face went pale. Her bouquet shook in her hands, petals bending under her tight grip. For a moment, she couldn't even breathe. The father spun around, his eyes wide, his voice shaking with rage and panic. "What did you just say? Do you even know what you're doing?" Before the boy could answer, the bride snapped. Her voice was sharp, desperate, almost breaking. "He's lying. He hates me. And now he's trying to ruin this day. Don't listen to him." But the boy wouldn't stop. His small body trembled, his eyes filled with tears, yet his voice carried through the church. "I'm not lying. I saw you at my school. You were with a man and a boy. You held his hand. You kissed him. You're not who you say you are." Whispers erupted all around. "Did he say husband? A kid?" People stared at the bride, waiting for her answer. The father's chest rose and fell quickly. He turned to her, his voice sharp, almost pleading. "Answer him. Tell me what he's talking about." The bride's lips quivered, but she forced a glare at the boy. "You're confused. You're making this up because you can't stand to see your father move on." The boy shook his head, his voice cracking but fierce. Tears rolled down his cheeks as he shouted the words that no one could ignore. "I remember your scar. It's you." The church went silent. Every eye was on her, waiting. The boy's words still hung in the air, and now the bride stood frozen, clutching her bouquet so tight the stems bent. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Her silence said more than words ever could. The priest's voice broke the tension, firm and unshaking. "Before God, and before everyone here, I ask you, are you already married? Do you have a family?" The bride's eyes darted nervously. She looked at the priest, then at the boy, then at the groom. Seconds ticked by. 1 to 3, still no answer. The room grew restless. Whispers spread quickly. "Why isn't she speaking? She's hiding something." Faces twisted in disgust. Guests leaned closer, waiting for the truth to spill. Finally, she snapped. Her hands shook as the bouquet slipped from her grip, crashing onto the floor, roses scattering across the aisle. Her voice rose high, sharp and bitter. "Fine. You want the truth? Yes, I have a husband. Yes, I have a child. But they're worthless." He couldn't give me the life I deserved. Do you think I wanted to stay stuck in that misery when I could have this? A mansion, a name, everything your father has, and doesn't even know how to protect. The crowd gasped as if the air had been sucked out of the room. Some covered their mouths. Others muttered in anger. She's a fraud. Unbelievable. The father staggered back, his hands trembling as he gripped the pew to steady himself. His face burned red, eyes locked on the woman he almost married. His voice dropped low, shaking with fury. You were scamming me. The father stood frozen, her ugly words echoing in his head. His stomach turned as the truth hit him hard. She never loved him. She never cared. All she wanted was his money, his name, his home. Everything he had worked for. She planned to take it all. Gasps and whispers filled the church. People shook their heads, disgust clear on their faces. She's a scammer. How shameless. I can't believe this. The same guests who had praised her beauty now turned their eyes away in shame. Mothers pulled their children closer. Men muttered under their breath, and the whole room seemed to pull back from her like she was poison. The bride's face twisted into a smirk. She looked straight at the father and hissed. And the worst part? You almost fell for it. You were ready to give me everything. Your name, your house, your wealth. And you didn't even see me coming. The father's jaw tightened. His hands shook, but this time it wasn't from nerves. It was from rage. He had nearly given this woman his life, and she had planned to destroy it. Slowly, he reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and raised it for everyone to see. His voice came out low, steady, and sharp. I'm calling the police. No one expected the wedding to end with handcuffs. The moment the father lifted his phone and spoke those words, I'm calling the police, the bride's face drained of color. Her eyes widened in shock, then burned with fury. You can't do this, she snapped, her voice rising, echoing off the church walls. You'll regret it. All of you will regret it. But the father didn't flinch. His voice stayed firm as he gave the report. The entire room sat in tense silence, every guest holding their breath. The laughter and whispers from earlier had been replaced by a heavy, uneasy stillness. Nobody moved. Nobody dared to interrupt. Minutes later, the sound of heavy footsteps filled the church. The doors creaked open, and uniformed officers walked in. Gasps rippled through the crowd, but no one spoke. All eyes were on the bride. Her body shook as the officers approached. She screamed, her voice shrill and desperate. No! This isn't fair. He's mine. Do you hear me? He's mine. You'll all pay for this. She fought, twisting and thrashing as they grabbed her arms. Her veil ripped, her bouquet lay crushed on the ground, but no one stepped forward to help. Not a single guest moved. They only turned their faces away, disgusted. Her curses echoed down the aisle, louder and louder, until the door slammed shut behind her. And then silence. Heavy. Final. The church was silent. The sound of the bride's screams had faded, leaving only the weight of what had just happened. Every guest stared at the father and his little boy. No one said a word. The father's chest rose and fell as he looked down at his son. Guilt washed over him. Slowly, he bent his knees and lowered himself until he was eye to eye with the boy. His hands shook as he reached out. I should have trusted you, he said, his voice breaking. You were right, and I didn't listen. I let my pride blind me. I'm so sorry. The boy's lips trembled, his face wet with tears. I didn't want you to go through it again, Dad, he whispered. Mom already hurt you. I couldn't let her hurt you too. Those words cut deeper than anything else. The father's eyes filled with tears as he pulled his son into his arms. He held him tightly, his voice low and trembling, but firm with promise. Never again, he whispered into his son's ear. You're all I need. The priest closed his Bible with a heavy thud that echoed through the quiet church. His voice carried across the room, steady and clear. Remember this. Lies can shine for a while, but truth will always tear them apart. No one said a word. The guests shifted in their seats, their faces pale and uneasy. One by one, they stood and slowly began to leave. There were no smiles, no congratulations, only silence. Each person walked out quietly, shaken by what they had just witnessed. At the front of the church, where flowers lay scattered across the floor and the dream of a wedding lay in ruins, a father and son clung to each other. The father held his boy tightly, his eyes closed as if he never wanted to let go again. The boy buried his face into his father's chest, his small hands gripping with all his strength. Everything around them was broken. The decorations, the ceremony, the plans for a new life. But in the middle of all that, something stronger had been rebuilt. The bond between father and son. And as the scene fades, one question remains for everyone watching. What would you do if a child exposed such a truth?